this is Steve Rozenberg with Mynd Property Management, and I'm joined here with Enrique Jevons with Mynd Property Management as well, and he is the regional director for all of the Pacific Northwest. Enrique, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, good to see you again, Steve.
You too. So what I want to talk about today is if I'm an investor in the Seattle Northwest area and I'm looking at selecting a tenant, what would you say are the top 3 things that I should be paying attention to make sure that I try to find that needle in the haystack, the good tenant that's going to stay forever, not be a problem, that kind of person? What are those 3 things?
Yeah, definitely right now for us, because one of the things I always do whenever a tenant goes bad, they don't pay, they bug out on the lease, I always go back to the application and look, were there any red flags that we missed? All right. So after years and years of doing just that, the one thing that really stands out more now than ever before is the FICO score, as far as the ability and the willingness to pay rent. So FICO score, it's fortunately something that's very easy to you set a standard, you apply that same standard to all applicants. So I highly recommend that make sure that on the application that you pull, that it includes pulling a FICO score. And so that's going to be the #1 determining factor, how good they are at paying their cell phone bills, how good they are at paying any other debts that they have. That's going to show you how good they are at paying their rent on time. Second to that then is going to be their income. So you definitely want to set a standard of how many times income you want to have for your property. So whether it be 2 times income, 2.5, 3 times, more. There is no restriction, what you can place. And it's also a nice, equitable standard that you can apply across the board. And you're not going to run into any, fair housing law restrictions against that. So you want to make sure that you do implement that. Now, some locations, for example, the state of Washington just this last year passed a new state law. And this is why it's exceptionally important that you're always familiar with and up to date on all the applicable laws where your properties are. And if you're not, then of course you need to team up with somebody who is an expert. Of course, that would include a property management company who's always going to be on top of all the new laws. But Washington state law has a new law now that all sources of income do count and must be allowed. So you can no longer restrict against, for example, Section 8 vouchers. So you must still accept Section 8 vouchers. You can still, let's say you have a 3 times rent income, you can still impose that restriction, but that restriction is going to be now only 3 times what the individual's co-payment is. So if their co-payment is $100 a month and the voucher takes care of the rest, they must make $300 a month in income from another source. All sources of income must be allowed. With that, and I know this is a bit of a side note, but it is something that comes up, preferences. What is not allowed by fair housing laws, and this is actually nationwide fair housing laws, is you may not discriminate against, with the source of income. That is, you can't favor certain people. So for example, and a common one is people think, oh, it must be legitimate to go ahead and allow military discounts. So you figure, well, you know what? I'm in the military. I would love to have somebody else who's in the military rent one of my places, or just in general, I'd love to have a military family rent one of my places.
Right, sure.
That's great. But if you offer them a discount, you don't offer somebody else, then unfortunately what you're doing is you're discriminating against anybody who is not in the military or a veteran or whatever your discount might happen to be, or you want to give a Microsoft discount, or you want to give a Google employee discount. Those are all types of discriminatory practices. Because unfortunately you're discriminating against anybody who's not a member of one of those groups. So,
okay.
So something to watch out for there. Third item to look for, back to that. Third item to look for is how long a person stays, at a location. So if they're bouncing around 3 months, 6 months, one of the questions you can be like, well, were those just short-term corporate rental housing, you were at, or were you just breaking your lease every single time?
Right.
And of course, so the shorter the stay, or if they have no rental history, can be very legitimate. Can be a great person straight out of college. I just have no rental history, right? Or their rental history is unverifiable because maybe they lived in Germany and they now have a job with Amazon. They're being relocated and they've got documentation showing how much money the job offer letter they're going to make, but you just can't verify it. Well, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be bad, but it just is a higher risk because it's just not verifiable. And so it's something to take into account.
Sure.
Is, how long have people stayed at their former residences?
Yeah. Okay. So that's good. So basically what I hear is the three things, if I'm an investor, that I need to look for is number one, FICO score.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, debt to income ratio, what they make and how much they're making. And
Right.
then, I'm sorry, what was the last one?
Yeah. And then number three is their rental history.
Rental history. Thank you. Yeah. So all of that will give you a good picture. And just as we close this out, I think it's important to say that people realize that what you do for one, you have to do for all. Is basically, you cannot, if you have certain rules and restrictions on FICO score, debt to, income and rental history, that's got to be across the board. You can't just specialize anything. And that's where people get in trouble is they think that they're doing someone a favor. Like you said, honestly, I never would have thought of the military as something,
Right.
but you're right.
Yeah.
That definitely could be. You're basically discriminatory practices against one set of people or in favor of a set of people. So that's good to know.
Housing. So you can go to a restaurant and get a military discount or a senior discount, those sort of things. But when it comes to housing is has much more restrictions.
Wow.
So you just got to be aware of the law and make
That's
sure
great.
you're not running afoul of the law.
Wow, that's great. Well, Enrique, if somebody wants to get a hold of you up in the Seattle area, what's the best way to contact you, either email or phone, would you say?
Definitely email. So definitely email's best way to reach me. So enrique.jevons@mind.co. You can also just do a Google search for my name since it's unique enough that you'll be able to find me that way as well.
Very unique. And if you want to join our Facebook group here at Mind, it's the Mastermind Real Estate Investment Club on Facebook, closed group. A lot of investors in there. I know Enrique's in there. I'm in there because we are investors. You'll be able to actually converse, engage, and have discussions with us and other very engaged investors, like-minded investors. And if you want to check out our website, mind.co, MYND.co. Enrique, thank you so much. And I would like to say, everyone, goodbye.
Thank you, Steve. Bye.
Bye-bye.